Welcome to UCLA Alan D. Leve Center for Jewish Studies. My name is Aomar Boum. I am professor of anthropology, history, and Near Eastern languages and cultures, and Maurice Amado Chair in Sephardic Studies at UCLA. I'm also the co-director of the Moroccan Jewish Studies program at UCLA. On behalf of the UCLA Alan D. Leve Center for Jewish Studies, I would like to welcome you to the Moroccan Jewish Studies program for a conversation with Paul Dahan. We're excited to host Paul Dahan, the founder of the Center, the Centre de la Culture Judéo-Marocaine. Mr. Dahan will discuss aspects of Jewish-Muslim encounters and relations through a collection of manuscripts, photographs, and books he gathered over more than 30 years. I would like to thank the Alan D. Leve Center staff for making the arrangement for this event. This event is also part of the Maurice Amado Chair in Sephardic Studies. Before I begin my conversation with Paul, I would like to give a brief bio of his work. Born in 1947 in Fez, Morocco, Paul Dahan spent part of his life in Morocco before he moved to Israel, where he lived in a kibbutz. In 1973, he settled in Belgium and pursued an educational interest in art, archaeology, and psychology at l'Université Libre de Bruxelles, the Institut Leve, Bruxelles, and the Université Catholique de Leve. A psychoanalyst by profession, Paul Dahan was nominated by King Mohammed VI in 2007 as the only Jewish member of the Council of Moroccan Community Abroad. He founded the Centre de la Culture Judéo-Marocaine in 2006 in Brussels. The center is a non-profit organization composed of a museum, a library, and a large collection of photos. Since its foundation, the center organized activities among professionals and the general public with interest in intercultural dialogue. It focuses on the historical and cultural experience of the Jews of Morocco, which has been forged during 2,000 years in a particular context of multiculturalism. As part of its work, the center also organized numerous exhibitions in Europe, the United States, and Morocco to highlight the plural identities of Morocco and the cultural dialogue and social relations between Jews and Muslims over centuries. Paul, thank you so much. Welcome to UCLA. Welcome, and welcome to the Moroccan Jewish Studies program. This is our second year, actually, since the program started. But we've been doing, for the last 5 years, or more than 5 years, a lot of programming on Moroccan Jews and Judaism and relationship between Muslims and Jews in North Africa in general. So it's really a pleasure to have you here. I would like to start by asking you to talk to us about who you are and what is your relationship with archives and how this relationship with archives began.
Well, as any human being, I mean, you begin in life, you don't know exactly what you want to do, who you are, and which way, what is the direction of your life. So it was the same with me. I am born as a Jew in Morocco, in Fez, which has, it's already a city with a very strong identity, very strong Jewish identity. And after the war in 1947, I mean, the whole center, Fez was divided into different quarters. Even in the Muslim Medina, you had different quarters. And then the Mellah, as everybody knows, it's a Jewish ghetto, but I don't like the word ghetto because people were massed together in that area, also with the area of protection. So you protect the different people with different religion, identity, because we know, like in any country in the world, when the country is destabilized and with problems, so the conflict come out, and we tried to found a bouc émissaire, a scapegoat, and Jews as the only stranger in the country are the ideal for a scapegoat. But in Morocco, anyway, since I'm talking about my time, my own experience, I knew that I was walking on the street, feeling free to move, and I didn't live any persecution or aggressivity, not at all. Some people did, but it's very difficult to generalize about the situation of Moroccan Jews in Morocco, because it all depends of your special relation to the other. And I had, since I was young, I was very curious about different, and my father helped me not to understand Judaism as an entity, but always goes to learn how the other people are living. So I was going to church from time to time with Christian friends. I was going to mosque. So for me, I wanted to see, and I felt that I didn't want to think that the Jews are the best, because the problem in identity is always to think that you are the place you are born, with the people you are born, you are the la crème de la crème, what we say in French, the best. No, of course, it was not, and it will never be the case in any place in the world. They are just people who grow up in other places, and they are different. And the idea was to accept and to live with the different, and to be curious about the different, and to learn from people who are different from you. So that was my identity. That it was my parents who taught me to go this way. And
did you also feel this respect for other identities and in the street and school?
Yes, because I began my very young in a school which was a Christian school, not a Jewish school. And then I went to the Jewish school, and then I went to high school was Muslim. It was Lycée Moulay Slimane. So I experienced the diversity, and all my life when I moved, I always look to live in places where there are differences. I didn't want to live in a homogene. That did not interest me. I like to share with the different, and that was my. So I went to Israel, as you presented before, and I went to Belgium. My study on Egyptology, Assyriology, Syria and all that area, because mainly civilization began there, and I wanted to know what was before the Judaism as we know. So you can never understand things without knowing what was before, and that's why my patience was always the past. I'm obsessed by the past. I'm by memory. Doing psychoanalysis is just a matter of what you are today, what you are doing today. It's a matter of what was before, who have bring you to what you are doing today. So
this is this person biography is really interesting insofar as how it, when I look at your work, how it influences in many ways the work you've done later. So, how do you go from Belgium back to Morocco?
Yeah, well, from Belgium, I was trying to become a Belgian citizen, but on the same time, as I just say, you have the past who attract you from where you come from. What is the meaning of what you live today in a Belgian society? I don't have a history in the Belgian society. I didn't live the Second World War. I am born after the war in Morocco. So that's other stories. I don't say that it's better than others, but it's just another story. Suddenly I decided, after all this studying and after reading philosopher, German philosopher, European philosopher, I wanted to know really where I came from. And that's what had bring me back to Morocco.
And that was exactly at what? Can you tell us the day or the year?
It was, well, I left Morocco just after the 6-Day War. And then I went to Israel, and I from Belgium I traveled back to Morocco, but 20 years later, 87, something like that, 1987, and my father and my mother came from that place called Tafilalt. Tafilalt, it's a very special region for the Jews because they have a very strong Jewish identity. Until today, when you go to Israel and you meet people from Tafilalt, they have something. It's like they didn't mix very much with others. They have stayed for centuries, very Jewish, living in a desert, dealing with Kabbalah, dealing with Orach Chaim, mystic. They didn't have much to eat, but for them, studying was very important.
So your father was from?
So my father was from there, and later in my life he told me that, because before I didn't know. When I began to ask questions, he told me he's from there. And when I got married in Belgium with an Ashkenazic woman, Sandrine Hirsch, I told her, okay, let's go together, and I'm very curious. It's interesting because that's happened just in the beginning of my marriage, of my wedding. I decided to go to try to find my roots. So I went to Tafilalet, and I don't know, I couldn't tell you what's happened, but it was something very spiritual. Things like that can happen to anybody when you are. The desert is something, it's an experience that anybody should live. Because you hear things, or you think about things that you will never think when you are in the city. Because in the city you are attracted all the time by different stimulus that you see. In a desert there is nothing. But in this nothing there is a lot of things. And I know to whom I'm talking. You know that. And so it has suddenly something changed on my. I didn't want anymore to do different things. I just wanted to study about the roots of Judaism of Morocco. So how could I do that? So my first thing was to try to find books, manuscript, document, archives, and that's what I'm very good on because.
So what's your first? So you are now, you're married, you start a new life, and now you're beginning this new adventure of collecting, learning about Moroccan Judaism. Describe to us your first encounter with the first article, document, piece of paper that narrates this history.
Yeah. So I arrived in that city called Rissani. Rissani is a very small place, but it's a center. It's where from the Moroccan dynasty, which is now in place. Yes, come from. And I felt that meeting there with Muslims from that area, I cannot explain, but it was something to do, it's like somebody wake up. It's like my lungs suddenly opened that I could breathe completely. I was not stressed, I was completely exchanging with those people. And I entered a little shop where I decided I found there a bracelet of Jewish community. It was the only object. And I began to bargain to buy this object. So it took me at least 1 hour. I was sitting there on a coffre,
a case.
A case, yeah, a wooden case.
Box.
Yes. And the guy bringing me tea and another tea and another tea. I was feeling myself as a teapot. I had so much tea. So suddenly, after talking all this time, the guy, you have to understand that negotiation in those areas, people are very psychological because they analyze the way you want to process an object, which way you go through. That's why if you go to Marrakesh, you want to buy a carpet, they will very quick know that you are a foreigner, so they will ask for. So for them, if you just buy it like that, they are not interested about you. I mean, they said, he believes just what we told him. So bargaining, it's a way to make yourself. So the guy asked me where you come from, and I told him I am from Fez, and he denied it, and he said, no, you are not from Fez. You are born in Fez, but you are from here. Why? Because he made me understood that the way I was bargaining was the same way when I was a child. I was going with my father, and I saw my father doing the business, and that's how I learned.
So it's interesting how you're talking about the first object you begin this collection with is a bracelet. The bracelet, in many ways, it's a connector. It's about marriage. It's about relations. It's about also the future, because a lot of those bracelets, and my mother has some of those bracelets, and they are actually in times of hardship. That's where people go back to. So you are in many ways. This object. It's very fascinating how the meaning of this object, how the foundation of this center and this institute you begin. So if you can tell us about at what moment you decided I am into a new mission and I want to create this center? When this center became an idea for you?
Yeah, it took, of course, a little time, because when you collect artifacts, it's always a kind of therapy. I mean, I was buying things, but it's like you have a puzzle of millions of pieces, and you know that you want to begin, but you don't know. So an object is an object. I mean, it's after it will remind you your grandmother or some, but it's just an object. After a while, you won't see it anymore. It's just there, but it gives you, of course, it gives you some spirit, that magic spirit. So after that, I understood that I should read a lot about that. That's how I began to read. In the library in Brussels, there is 15,000 books about Morocco in general, but in all the books, somewhere they talk about the Jews, because the Jews were everywhere. In small villages, in big cities, they were, you know, in a way or another, for all those travelers, they always will say, the Jews were doing, and so on. So I bought a lot of books in all languages, even languages I don't read, like German. There are books printed in Portuguese, because the Portuguese were in Morocco in the 16th, 17th century. In books in French, of course, in English. So I bought everything I found in the. And it's fascinating to discover how rich is that country in a variety. It's so many different ethnies, so many different. We call it Morocco, one word, but it's not. It's you know, like in some countries in Middle East, they have 60 words to say a camel. You see it as a camel, but there is so many. So I like that. I like that. I like the variety when there are differences, because you know it's like even in the painting, you know, little touche. So it's very rich, and that's what I like in Morocco. Because for me, there is no end to discover. And even Morocco, many of Moroccans don't know. For instance, you have a lot of people in Belgium who come from the Rif, northern part of Morocco. They say that they are from the Rif, but they know nothing about their history. So I begin to collect, and then I found that a lot of people living all over the world, Jewish people, were interesting about that collection. So I slowly open to communicate with those people, to give those people information about their origin. You know, for instance, many people left Morocco, North Morocco, to Brazil, to Amazonia in the 19th century. So I have a lot of documentation, archives about those people continuing to write letters about when they settled in Managua, or I don't know, places, Belen and things like that. And because I never knew that that exists. And slowly, it became, you know, I didn't stop. I buy almost every day, mainly documents and engravings. I buy paintings, of course, manuscript, object, ceramics, textile, because the textile will tell you from which area the people come. It's the same with the jewelry. It's the same with everything. So it's.
So can you describe to us this collection? What does this collection includes in general?
So we are talking about 15,000 books from the 16th century, beginning of 16th century, printed books in all languages till the 1960s, 70s at the end. And then you have about 100,000 manuscripts. But when I'm talking about manuscripts, it's booklets, big manuscript, but also when you have 5, 10 single leaves. So that is the library, and you have in the collection, you have engravings, you have jewelry from all the areas in gold and silver, all kind of, because the Jews were the master people dealing with that. You have costumes from all different parts, but not only Jewish and non-Jewish. So when you have an object, and you can see on the web site, you will find.
So there is a website. So
there is a website.
What's the address of the website?
www.judaism, either in French or in English, how do you call it? Hyphen Moroccan.org. But if you
www.judaism-moroccan.org.
Voilà. Or if you just go to Google and you write Judaisme Marocain, the first one which appears, so you have the collection, which mainly object. You have objects, the circle of life, circle of the year, the Pesach, Yom Kippur, and so on. And then you have also community life, everything which the house objects.
Do you have images and postcards there? And
of course, that's a photothèque. You have about also 13 or 14,000 images, pictures from the beginning of the photography. It's 1855, something like that, because the Jews were the only people often by the first photographer who entered Morocco. The Jewish people were the one who could be there to be photographed, because for the Muslims it was they were scared about that, and it depends on the period and the areas, of course. But mainly the North Morocco, Tangier, Tétouan, and that, you have photos, a lot from the 1880s. And you have postcards, of course, a few thousand.
This is thanks. I think this is amazing for a lot of people like me, scholars of Moroccan Judaism and North African Judaism in general. For us, this is not only a trove, but this is the foundation of what we do. We always need archives, and so I know that from the description that you're given here, that the archive is not something that you just want to put in boxes or you want to put in museum, but you want to make it a living material. So can you speak for how do you go about collecting and using this material to educate not only in Belgium, in Brussels, and Europe, but also in Morocco?
Yeah. Well, that of course, being in psychoanalysis, have helped me a lot to understood that things from the past have to continue to live, because all the people who wrote those manuscripts and those documents have to continue to live, and to put there, and that it's when it's dead, it's so understood quite quickly how important is that all those people, a community of many thousands of Jews left, and there are more than 1 million today in the world. All those people need to continue to have to be in touch with their past, their family, because the tragedy in the migration is when you leave your country, you leave a family, you leave your roots. If you completely forgot about that, that's I know about that many people have symptoms, disease. I wouldn't talk about that here, but it's quite complicated. But so how you should keep in touch, in contact with, to make those documents and those books and those manuscripts live in you. Not everybody, of course, but for some people, it's talking very much for them, and it's so important. So, so that's what is my mitzvah. Is to be the go-between, the people who left and who have nothing about. That's why often Moroccan Jews are making fiesta. You know, they are eating, they are drinking, but actually they don't sit. They don't have the material to be able to talk and to know. So after, when the children and the little children of those people and asking questions, you know, it's very fantasy. But when you have those documents, when you have a history, that's very important. So I know how important it is. So that's why I'm fighting for that.
So how did you? So what kind of activities you were able to do in Belgium to make sure that these ideas that you have become a reality, especially in conversation, not only with Jews but also with Muslims?
Of course.
What kind of activities?
Activities are, there's a big population of Moroccan Jews and Moroccan in general in Belgium. So I'm making, all my collection is, I'm having a space in the Jewish Museum of Brussels. They gave me a place of about 400 meters square, where everything is there, the books and the collection. And I'm making exhibition, about 2 or 3 exhibitions by year. And those exhibitions are traveling all over Europe and in Morocco. In Israel it's a little bit more complicated, but I try, and it has I work very much with schools. I bring children, and those children of Moroccan descent and Jews or not Jews are coming, and we explain, and they are so happy and so proud to discover their own roots, because if they don't have that, they have a hole. So they sometimes think about the worst thing, but when you show them that those things existed, so it's full up that big hole which is dangerous. So I am making exhibition. We are doing, of course, guiding tours. We are doing, comment on dit, ateliers, des workshops, and every workshop it's about 2 hours with classes, and after they work with their professor, with their teacher, mainly it's turned around the identity. And the Belgium state is helping me very much because they realize and they understand how important it is to give those children something that they will be proud where they come from. Because if they are not, they become sour and they don't like themselves and they become extremist. So this is a real thing to fight. It's again extremism. And extremism, often the extremist people are very weak. Inside, the identity is weak. That's why you become extreme. It's because you are grabbing to one idea of religion, of something, and this is not what we know in Morocco with the religion. In Morocco, we know that we respect the different. We have a religion much more soft, not strong. But unfortunately, many of those Moroccans who came to Europe, who didn't have this work done, they became extremists, and sometimes they went to Daesh and blah blah. So that's what I'm doing. So and the government understand that, and they help me because it's part of the society work, you know, how to deal not only security, putting millions or milliards of money on security, but education.
This is fascinating. I remember the first time I reached out to you was sometime around 2006, 2007. I was working on my book manuscript at the time, and also I was working on this article on museums in Morocco. So Morocco happens to have one of the only and the first Jewish museum in Casablanca, which is run by my friend Zhor Rahihal. But there are also other ideas and other projects of Jewish museums. Now it's fascinating for me to hear that here you have a Moroccan Jew. His name is Paul Dahan, is in Brussels in Europe, not only building and establishing a museum that highlights Moroccan Jewish culture and history, but also teaching about it in the context of Europe. So, is there, from your perspective, and ways to exchange and talk between Morocco and Belgium and France and other European countries, as far as how museums become centers of learning to this new generation that has never met a Jew, or generation that have less contact with Muslims, where in a world where Islamophobia and anti-Semitism and xenophobia are emerging, what role do you see for museums today in North Africa, in Morocco, and in Europe?
Yeah, well, museum it's something to begin with, of course, because you see objects and you see things. But after you have to it's like when you have a book in your hand. If there are photos or pictures, you first will go to something easy, picture, to look at the picture. But after, you read. But reading means you have to make an effort with your brain to read. It takes more time. And today we live in a world where the picture, the photograph, have too much impact. But if you don't know, if you don't have read the text, you don't see what's behind the picture, what you don't see in the picture. You just look at the picture if you're looking for something. But it's important because don't forget that even the writing, a symbol, letters, before becoming a letter, it was a picture. For instance, if you take the letter A, who is like that, before it became an A, it was a head of, comment on dit, une vache. un taureau.
A cow or
Yeah, a cow. So it was called in Egyptian, old Egyptian, it was called alf. Alf. And from alf, it became the aleph in Hebrew. Okay? And then it became the A. So who knows today that when we are pronouncing a word with A, at the beginning it came from a picture. So, but at that time, when they have only pictures, that they had a lot of fight between the people, a lot of, because it was only a picture. So that's why we use today symbolic. It's very important to try to understand better each other by symbols. So I think object in a museum is good, because myself, I went to Jerusalem to the first exhibition about Jewish of Morocco. It was in 1972. I discovered in Jerusalem that there was a Moroccan Jewish culture with objects. But that exhibition was a startup also later on to travel and to do what I have been doing later on, to collect. So it's important to make exhibition, to give the appetite to people to be able to read books, eventually to study, and that's what I want to do. And that's why, talking about Morocco, in September, I have bring with other people in Tangier. We had a meeting with 30 people coming from different parts of the world. We want to create a center for research and documentation about the Jews of northern Morocco. Northern Morocco, it's Morocco who are speaking Arabic, Spanish, Haketia, and so on. And we were 30 people in Tangier, with professors of university who came from France, from Israel, from the States, and so. And then we had also on Zoom 30 other professors from Brazil, from Venezuela, the States, Canada, and so on. So there is a demand that this center, where we will put a database of all the information we can get in the whole world concerning that community. Because there is a demand not only for the people who left Morocco, for their children who want to know where do I come from. That was it's the first question that any human being is. So we are going to create that center, and I'm sure it will be a success.
So I'm going to ask my last question. There's only one Paul Dahan, and Paul Dahan has been doing all this work for all this time, for these years and years and these decades, I would say. And so, but they have to, for this work to continue, you need people that you can give the torch to. So how do you go as far as the daily life of not only acquiring the product, the documents, and acquiring the object, but also putting them online, making sure that they are visible to people? Who is helping you do this?
Well, it's a matter, of course, of the power of money. If I can, in Brussels, the city of Brussels, they gave me 2 people scanning all the time for years all those documents. So it was already done by people. Everything was scanned. I took the manuscript to Jerusalem, to Israel libraries, which have been scanned. So they are online. the whole manuscript, not all of them, because I have, as I told you, so many, but a part of it I was bringing with suitcases in Jerusalem, and things have been scanned. And so the thing is, you are working, it's like bees. I'm not alone. There are people who
Do you involve your family in this? Are
yeah,
your kids?
my kids, my three children are involved. Each of them are working on different topics, but they for them it's important, and they understand, because I already have been making, I don't know, something like 20 exhibitions, traveling all over the world, so they understand how important it is, and they saw television coming at home, making, so for them it's, so we are going to continue the work with, but most important is that it's online, that people, a document is a document. Yeah. Today you can be Moroccan in Morocco, and you can be a good Moroccan elsewhere. Yeah. You don't need to be in the States to work. We have that.
So is this, and this is my promise, this is my last question, is bringing your kids and your children as part of this project, is it fulfilling your respect of what your father has always inculcated in you?
Yeah. No, I just feel something simple, much more simple than that. Through my journey of life, I have learned something, that if you don't know where you come from, really, you don't know where you are going. Because knowing where you come from, and that me, Paul Dahan, it's a little piece of the chain. My father was there, my grandfather was there. So everything I'm doing, most of the things I'm doing, is because of them. Of course, I have had added more experience of living in Scandinavia, living in Israel, which they didn't. But at the end, there is the whole story. And I know how important it is to continue to keep in touch with that. And it's not because I'm changing and I'm dressed like a European that it's... Paul Dahan can wear a djellaba and feel comfortable with a djellaba. And Paul Dahan can also be... Today you are very rich if you can move in space in a word and adapt yourself. You speak the language. You will feel more comfortable if you speak 20 languages than if you speak only language. It's like your stomach. If your stomach is able to digest Japanese, I don't know, South American, and so he will be stronger than if you eat only rice all your life or only couscous all your life. So with the brain, it's the same thing. The brain have to be adapted to diversity, and you will be able to be more stable and more strong.
Thank you. Thank you. And with that, I would end. You brought diversity, and I think also diversity and multiculturalism in many ways pushes against purity. And when it pushes against purity, it pushes against hatred, fascism. And so thanks for all the work you're doing. And I can, as a scholar of Moroccan Judaism, and have students working on the topic and colleagues, we really appreciate all the work you've done. You've made a lot of documents and archives accessible to us and to communities around the world. And I really invite future researchers and current researchers to go to your website, www.judaismmarocain.org. Thank you. Thank you.
If they need more information about what they can see in the web, they can send me an email. You will be able to give them my email address, and it's with big pleasure that I will scan the whole document or give them the information they need to, because I know it's important for them.
Thank you so much, and it's really a pleasure to have you here as a guest of Moroccan Jewish Studies program at UCLA. Thank you.
Aomar.
Thank you.